What do you think? Bitcoin create a new all-time high?
It has at least another 10, 20, 30x to go from here. So our official forecast is we think it'll get to 1.3 million by 2035. I personally think that's conservative.
This is Matt Hougan, the man who is known as the godfather of crypto ETFs.
He now serves as Chief Investment Officer at Bitwise Asset Management,
managing over $15 billion in digital assets. By turning complex blockchain ideas into trusted investment products,
he's building the bridge between traditional finance and the future of crypto.
If you summarize your crypto knowledge
Yeah.
in just one sentence, what will be that?
I think it's that crypto is the future of finance. Crypto is such a powerful technology, but people are skeptical of it because they don't understand it.
We want to convince them like they should sell their house and get into Bitcoin. What will be that?
Harvard's endowment owns Bitcoin. Ray Dalio owns Bitcoin. The Abu Dhabi Sovereign Wealth Fund owns Bitcoin. If you think the gold market will continue to grow and Bitcoin gets a little bit more share, let's say it gets to 25% of the gold market, it's a $1 million coin. I think it could be $5-6 million in the next 10 years.
If someone just started building their portfolio, what should be your suggestion or advice for them?
For my personal allocation is 40% of your portfolio in the crypto broadly, 40%. So if you're young, your most important asset is actually
SEC chair also predicted that in 2 years, the whole US market will be on-chain.
I think in a couple of years, there's $680 million of tokenized stocks. The US equity market is $68 trillion.
Huge.
That's 100,000x.
According to you, what can be your predictions for 2026 for Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, XRP?
I think
Hello, Matt.
Hi, nice to see you.
Nice to see you. You are the CIO of Bitwise.
That's right.
And you are the one who started the ETF industry and you pioneered it. Okay? But we want to know who is Matt when no one is watching.
Who is Matt when no one is watching? Look, I'm a dad. I have 3 kids.
Okay.
I'm a husband. I'm a runner. I like to run. And I'm someone who loves technology and progress. But I think when no one is watching, most of what I'm doing is being at home with the family.
You're a family man.
Yeah, family man. Very important to me.
Very important.
Starts with the kids. I love my work. I love my family as well. Yeah.
You have an incredible 25 years of career. What was that one moment that make you fall in love with finance and crypto?
That's a great question. Well, those are 2 different things.
Yes,
First,
sir.
I fell in love with finance, and then with crypto. Look, the thing about finance is it's a way of viewing and understanding the world. So I've always been interested in lots of different things in the world, and what really drew me to finance was I found a community of people early writing online that were discussing all the things in the world, and then you can measure them in terms of how different assets perform.
Which year?
That was way back in like 2000. Yeah, 2000. And I was fortunate to then turn that into a job in the finance industry. I was a biotech analyst at a mutual fund. I eventually moved into covering ETFs, but that was really it for me. It's a really fascinating way to think about everything that's going on in the world, from politics to economics to technology to progress to challenges to geopolitical events. All of that is expressed in financial results. And so that is what really appealed to me. Crypto, look, I was early in the ETF industry. ETFs have been ascended and gone from 0 to $20 trillion, taking over. And the beautiful thing about ETFs is when I joined, people were very skeptical of them. They didn't believe in them. They thought they were dangerous. They thought they were worrisome. And I saw them go from that to something really significant. And so when I sold my ETF business, looked around for the next thing that people were skeptical of because they didn't understand it. And I think that's really true of crypto. Crypto is such a powerful technology, but people are skeptical of it because they don't understand it. And I thought, what better thing to do with the rest of my career than to focus on another thing that people don't understand, but which can make the world better, cheaper, more efficient, more fair, more open. That was crypto to me.
What was the year and exactly what was that movement?
So the year I switched to Bitwise was 2018, but that was because I had to sell my business. I knew I was going into crypto for sure in 2017, and I started to really follow it way back in 2013. I had a moment. I think this happened to a lot of people early in crypto. I've been hearing about it. I've been listening to it. I've been following it. I even had some early meetings about it. But it wasn't until someone who I took very seriously, a sort of famous lawyer in the ETF space, took me aside and said, Matt, this is much more serious than you think. You have to pay attention to it. Her name's Kathleen Moriarty, and I still thank her to this day because she was the one who really made me step back and look at it, not as though it was reported in the media, but what it really was under the surface. And that was
What year?
That was in 2013.
2013. So you have been into crypto for last 12 years, correct?
Yeah.
So if you summarize your 12 years of crypto knowledge in just one sentence, what will be that?
One sentence. One sentence to summarize my 12 years of crypto knowledge. I think it's that crypto is the future of finance.
Future of finance.
And if I could say one sentence more, he only gave you one sentence. I'm gonna do one sentence more. The thing about crypto, if you go back 12 years ago, all the things that we're seeing today were things that people talked about then, but people were very skeptical of. Bitcoin would be owned by sovereign wealth funds. It would be owned by Harvard. You would have Wall Street building in crypto. Those were crazy ideas 12 years ago, and then they're all true. And what that tells me about where crypto is going is things we're saying now. Bitcoin will be held by central banks. The future of finance will be decentralized finance. Those are going to be true in another 12 years. So it's really been this wonderful journey of like hearing the things people said, and people were so skeptical of them. And now those are all true, and people are skeptical of the next wave of growth. But it's absolutely going to happen. It's a massively better technology for how finance can work. And I think the skeptics have been proven wrong for the last decade. They'll be proven wrong for the next one as well.
So according to you, crypto is the future of finance?
I think it's the future of finance. It's just way better.
It's way better.
It's way better.
Okay. Also, as you just mentioned, crypto is the future of finance. Larry Fink predicted that every stock, every bond will be tokenized.
Yeah.
Okay. And how will, according to you, this will change the whole financial system and stock market of this world?
Yeah. Probably the first thing to say is how bad the stock market is in today's world. We don't think about it much as investors, but behind the scenes, stocks are like really slow moving. When you buy a stock in the US, you don't actually get it. It doesn't actually settle into your account for a day. Think about that. You could buy it on a Friday and you don't get it until Monday. What is that true of in the world? Imagine if I sent you an email and you got it on Monday. Like, it's a crazy idea. Why is the world working that way? And tokenization makes that not happen. It means we can settle things instantaneously. And importantly, it means we can cut out all the middlemen. Do you know if you diagram how a stock goes from you to me, it has to pass through about 7 different entities in the US.
7?
Yeah. It has to go here and here and here to different custodians and then back along the line. Every one of those is a tax. Every one of those costs money because these entities aren't going to do work for free. So you're paying these entities. And what crypto does is it collapses that. It makes it from you to me, and it removes all of those middlemen. Now, it's not quite as simple as that, but that's the direction it's going. And that means it's cheaper, it's faster, it's more efficient. It's the way things should work.
Okay.
Yeah.
So SEC chair also predicted that in 2 years, the whole US market will be on-chain. Do you believe that?
I think in a couple of years. I think in a couple of years. And it's important to say how big a deal that is.
I
think people don't. So right now, we talk about tokenized stocks. There's $680 million of tokenized stocks. 680 million.
Okay.
The US equity market is $68 trillion.
Zilch.
That's 100,000x. Think about the market. This is the chairman of the SEC, arguably the most important financial regulator in the US, certainly, arguably in the world, saying the market for tokenized stocks is going to 100,000x in the next 3 years. The old saying is you're not bullish enough. I think that's a little bit true on this factor. If that's true, the stablecoin market needs to be 20x bigger than it is to support that. The amount of fee volume on blockchains like Ethereum and Solana has to be exponentially larger to support that. One of the challenges in crypto right now is people are having trouble looking at something like Ethereum or Solana and using cash flow metrics to justify its valuation. But the thing they're missing is that the chairman of the SEC says it's going to 100,000x. If it 100,000x that is a lot. It's just a very big number, and it's yeah, I think it's going to happen in a couple of years.
Okay, so the big question is that maybe they can create their own private blockchain. Why they will choose for stock market Solana, Polygon, Ethereum? Why they will choose that?
This is where it helps to be old, like me. So in the early days of the internet, there's this idea of private intranets. That was the word, INTRA net, intranets. And that was the idea that corporations would have their own internet. So every company would have its own internet. The early days of the internet, everyone thought intranets were the future because they were safe, they were protected, and they were regulatory. But of course, that's not how it worked out. We have the internet, it's open, it's global. And the reason is that's inherently more powerful. And you just see this repeating here in crypto. Oh, we want our own private corporate intranet. No, there's no way. It can't compare with this global open architecture system that is public blockchains. Now, what I don't know is like which blockchain it will be. I actually don't know. It'll be ETH, it'll be Solana, it'll be a mix of them, it'll be a new chick. I don't know, but I feel every confidence that it's going to be open architecture because the world is global, the world is 24/7. You don't want this ring fenced. And the history of the internet just tells me for sure that the open architecture version will win. And so I feel very confident about that.
Okay, based on your experience, like BlackRock has chosen Ethereum for their middle fund.
Yeah.
Based on your experience, if US government choose any particular blockchain, what can be that? Solana, Polygon, Ethereum, BNB? What do you think?
It's a great question. I mean, I think BlackRock chose Ethereum. At the time, it was the only blockchain that was sort of passed by regulators in the US.
Okay.
Now that's broadening out. The short answer is I don't know. The way I invest in it is I own them all.
Okay.
That way, whichever one turns out to be right, great. It's like a VC portfolio. If you talk to a traditional venture capitalist, they expect a lot of their bets to go to zero and then one or two to be 100x returns. Same is true in this space. If I own 10 of the largest blockchains, I suspect 6 of them will be worth nothing. That's fine with me, as long as I know that I get the 4 or the 2 or the 1 that's worth a great deal. So the short answer to your question is I don't know, but the longer answer is I just buy them all. It makes it easy.
You also shared your strategy.
Yeah.
Perfect. Okay, so you are a perfect mix of traditional finance and crypto world. You have seen both.
Appreciate
and
it.
you have given years and decade to both of this industries.
Yeah.
Right? But still many people not able to understand the power of Web3 and crypto. If you have a 30-second pitch to convince them that crypto is the future, what will be that?
Yeah, so just think about moving money today.
Okay.
If I go to JP Morgan and I want to send money abroad, it's going to take 1 to 3 business days to settle, and the fee could be anywhere from 20 to the hundreds of dollars.
Yeah.
If I want to move it on Ethereum, it can move in 12 seconds anywhere around the world, 24/7, 365. JP Morgan has hundreds of thousands of employees. Ethereum has 0. And yet this thing with 0 employees can move things exponentially faster than the largest bank in the world. Right? The old system is a dead man walking. There's no way it can compete, even with their hundreds of thousands of employees. And then you take that example of just moving money and you move it to anything in finance, stocks, bonds, lending, etc. It's just infinitely faster. It's like having a car versus walking. There is no comparison. So it is going to win long term. It's just that much better.
Okay, that's a great answer. I'm convinced. I'm sold. So Bitwise recently launched XRP ETF. On the first day, you had $100 million worth of inflow. Why there is so much interest in XRP? Who are buying, retail or institution? And do you really think that XRP is safer asset in comparison of Bitcoin and Ethereum, and it can give good gains? So there are a lot of questions.
Oh, great. Yeah. So the thing about initial first day flows into an ETF is that what it's driven by is people who are really excited about that asset.
Yeah.
The funny thing about XRP is it's a divisive asset of crypto. There's many people who hate it as who love it. When you're launching an ETF, you don't care about anyone who doesn't hate it. They're just not going to buy it. All you care is that there are people who love it. There are people who love XRP. They're the ones that bought. In any ETF, and this is true of XRP, the day one flows are primarily retail. Institutions move slowly. Institutions take their time. They start studying it, and that really starts to show up over time. So who bought it on day one? Mostly retail, some hedge funds. Who will buy it on day 1,000 is institutional investors. That's just the way ETFs work. What do I think about XRP? I think we don't know. XRP is a business-to-business blockchain that the SEC, the U.S. regulatory agency, sued. It's hard to do business when your financial regulator is threatening to sue you out of existence. That lawsuit settled this year, or it was dismissed, basically. And now we get to find out, will XRP succeed? So I think the people who are confident XRP will succeed, maybe they're right, but I'm not sure. The people who are confident it will not succeed, maybe they're right, but I'm not sure. What I know is that everyone who has 100% confidence on either side is not perfectly right. I think the answer is to be determined because it hasn't really had a chance to fight for real world use case. Now it has that chance. I think over the next 3 years, we'll see if it's a massive success or if it amounts to very little, but it has a real shot. It's got a efficient, fast, easy to use blockchain. It's got a committed community. It's backed by a huge amount of capital. Anyone who's writing that to zero, I think is wrong. I think we're going to have to see how it does in the next 3 years. And at that point, we'll know.
You mentioned recently, right now Bitcoin have lot of demand, but there is no enough supply. Okay. According to you, what can be your predictions for 2026 for Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, XRP?
Yeah, I think the outlook is really good. As you mentioned, it's all about supply and demand. So there's only a certain amount of Bitcoin produced each year, 164,000 Bitcoin, that's it. ETFs are buying about 300,000 Bitcoin. You don't have to be that complex about it. There's more demand than there's supply. The price should go up. I think we fought to go up this year because it's been around $100,000. That's a big round number. It takes some time to get above that. But the institutional demand is not going away. In fact, it's accelerating. Yeah, we just had some of the largest platforms in the US approve Bitcoin ETFs. We're going to see accelerating close. So I'm very excited. On ETH and Solana, maybe even more so, because you have the same supply-demand dynamic, but you also have rising interest in stablecoins and tokenization. And people want to know how to invest in the growth of stablecoins and tokenization. And the answer is to buy ETH and Solana. So I think you're going to see all three assets push upwards next year. I wouldn't be surprised if all traded to new all-time highs. I think it's going to be a good year for crypto.
So according to you, for stablecoins, ETH and Solana are the best blockchains.
They're one half of the best. Actually, it's glad that you called me out on it. If I were trying to put together an investment in stablecoins, I would invest partially in ETH and Solana and partially in entities like Circle and Coinbase and stocks that are building on the stablecoin space, because we don't know which of those two sides will benefit the most from the growth. So I would own some crypto assets and some stablecoin linked crypto equities, put them together into a package and just see how it plays out.
That looks like a great basket.
Yeah.
So do you think, what do you think in 2030 will be the future of stablecoin?
Look, stablecoins are how money's going to move. I think they're just how money moves. I don't think we'll be doing cash. I don't think we'll be doing ACH. We don't think we'll be using as much credit. Actually, I think a lot will be collateralized credit on stablecoins. I think there'll be many trillions of dollars globally, maybe 10 plus trillions of dollars. I mean, I think it's a really big market opportunity.
Do you really think it can take over the TradeFi current system, stablecoins?
Yeah, why not? I mean, it's just faster. Again, this goes back to the same thing we talked about with stocks. The current system is not good. When I charge something with my debit card, there's a 35-cent fee. When I charge it with a credit card, there's a 2% fee. It's crazy.
It's too much.
It's crazy. And the reason is the system's too slow. Now, nationally, some countries have figured out how to make the system very fast. Actually, in India, the system is extraordinarily fast, right? But that was bespoke, built by service. That's not true on a global basis. Globally, you're going to need something like stablecoins that make money move at the speed of light everywhere around the world. And yeah, I think it'll reinvent the entire system. I actually think we're not that far away from it. I think it's a handful of years until we get to that point. Yeah.
Okay. So when it comes to India, we have a great system known as UPI. Do you ever think that stablecoin replace thing like the UPI?
It's a great question. So I'm not a deep expert, but I do know about UPI. It's incredible, which is an incredible story there. I think the question is how much global commerce needs to take place. right? So where stablecoins would help in a place like India is when money needs to leave the country or come back in. And I imagine the cost to do that is still relatively high, and the frictions are relatively high. Within India itself, I mean, UPI is just it's an amazing system. I mean, it really is. So they've done that very well, better than almost anyone in the world.
Have you ever tried yourself UPI?
No, I haven't. But I've studied and read about it because it is it's such a difference from how it works in like somewhere in the US, where it's this hobbled together system that is so slow and people settle in weeks. It's really painful. It's remarkable to look at what's been built in India. It's sort of a model, but stablecoins allow that efficiency to almost exist everywhere globally. It's not a bad comparison.
So you discovered Bitcoin in 2011, okay? And Bitcoin was around $1.
Yeah,
And you also regret not buying at that point of time, right?
it's terrible. Yes.
Do you still think so it's worth buying? And do you feel so it have a good, like really good upside for the retail audience? Be honest.
Yeah, it's got a huge upside. Of course, I wished I bought it when it was $1.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm sure everyone does. But yeah, it has at least another 10, 20, 30x to go from here.
Which year you are targeting?
So our official forecast is we think it'll get to 1.3 million by 2035. So in 10 years, it'll like 13x. I personally think that's conservative.
Really?
Yeah, I do. So for context, we think a lot about Bitcoin as a percentage of the gold market. Today, it's about 8% of the gold market. The gold market has been growing substantially. It's 10x'd over the last 20 years. It's been growing. We think that growth will continue. If you think the gold market will continue to grow and Bitcoin gets a little bit more share, let's say it gets to 25% of the gold market, it's a $1 million coin. That's pretty conservative. All you're saying is that the gold market will do what it's been doing, which is growing. I think it'll grow faster. And then you're saying Bitcoin will do what it's been doing, which has been taking a little bit of share. Then you get to north of $1 million. I think it can be well higher than that. I think it could be $5-6 million in the next 10 years. But what we tell our institutional clients is that 1.3 million by 2035 is a fair projection. Is that the same as going from 1 to 100,000? No, it's not. But is a 10x still a meaningful number for a retail investor? It absolutely is. That's the kind of return that can help you buy a house or put your kids through college or invest for a business. It's a meaningful return. And I think it could be higher than that. It could be 20x, 30x, etc. I still think it's very early.
So let's say we are speaking to someone who kind of hates Bitcoin.
Yeah.
And we want to convince them in 30 seconds, like they should sell their house and get into Bitcoin. What will be that?
I don't know if they should sell their house and get into Bitcoin. Here's the thing I would say. Look, Bitcoin is a $2 trillion asset. It's not zero. Equities are $100 trillion. Bitcoin is 2. So if you're not at 2%, if you're 100% equities, you're not at 2%, you're actually short Bitcoin versus the market. Maybe you're a genius and you're right, but Harvard's endowment owns Bitcoin, Ray Dalio owns Bitcoin, the Abu Dhabi Sovereign Wealth Fund owns Bitcoin. These are not small investors. They are very smart. And they've all looked at this and said, this has a significant future. I'm not sure I would bet against that. If you're at 2%, then you're neutral. Then you're just like, okay, give me what the market. So at least start there, at least have some foot in the door in case Ray Dalio is right, or Harvard is right, or Stan Druckenmiller is right, or the Abu Dhabi Sovereign Wealth Fund is right, or pension funds are right, or insurance companies are right. These are the smartest investors in the world. They're saying that this thing has value. Maybe you don't want to have 0. Maybe you don't need 100. Maybe you don't need 40 or whatever my personal allocation is. 40% of your portfolio to be.
You are at 40%.
In the crypto broadly, yeah, about 40%.
And what is other 60%?
It's mostly retirement assets like stocks and bonds and stuff. Maybe you don't need 100%, but if you're not at 2, you're short the market. I just think it's a crazy position, okay, to take.
Okay, like I was being with one of my friend and I was telling that Bitcoin is like going to the moon and it has great potential, you should get in. And his point was like, now almost everyone already know about Bitcoin. Trump is talking about it and governments are started talking about it. Ray Dalio, governments are getting into it. So no one else is left to get into that. What's your take on that?
Let me tell you a story as an answer to that. I go and speak to these conferences of financial advisors. These are the people who manage the wealth of the wealthiest individuals in the US. They control 10, 30, 40 trillion dollars. And at the start of my talk, I'll ask how many people in this room, 1,000 advisors, how many people in this room own Bitcoin on behalf of clients? It's maybe 5% or 10%. So yes, they've heard about it. They've all heard about it. That's definitely true. But the percentage that is invested is very small. You can count it on one hand. Until that's 90% of the room, then you're still early. When it's 90% of the room, I'll come back, you can have me on, and I'll say you missed the boat. But I think the Bitcoin price will be millions of dollars by then. So just keep that image in your mind. 1,000 advisors, a room full, and only a handful of people raising their hands. That's what it's like right now. And so there's still a long way to go.
These advisors are one of the most smartest people, right?
Yeah.
And what's stopping them to get into Bitcoin?
For a long time, it was that they didn't have an easy way because there were no ETFs. There's now been an ETF for about 2 years. It's a matter of time. I'll tell you a fun fact. At Bitwise, this is the audience we serve. Our average client invests after 8 meetings. 8 meetings. Advisors are busy. You're lucky if you meet with them every quarter. So what is 8 times a quarter? It's 2 years. So if they started studying it just when the Bitcoin ETF launched, they're like just getting to the point where they're ready to allocate. These advisors are very busy. It's just a passage of time. And the other thing I would say is, like, when's the first, I heard about Bitcoin in 2011. I didn't buy it. It took a couple of years.
That's
right. Like, it's not that abnormal. It's just when you're in crypto, it seems so obvious, but it takes a while for everyone to get there. Everyone's on their own journey. These institutions that just started their journey 2 years ago. So they're getting there. The wave is coming. Just the patience, it'll get here.
I also remember when I heard about Bitcoin 2017, I thought it was a huge scam.
Right. Yeah.
It took 3 years to build that conviction.
There you go. There's the multiple years again. And then the other thing people miss is, I bet the first time you bought Bitcoin wasn't the last time. I bet you bought a little, and then you bought more, and then you bought more, and then you bought more. That's the same thing that's going to happen on this institutional community. That's why, to your friend who says everyone knows about it, they know about it, but they haven't gone through that 3-year journey to believe in it. And then there's another 5 years of building their position. So you have like another 5, 6, 7, 8 years to front run the institutions. And at that point, it really will be too late. Then you'll be looking at boring returns, handful of percent, low volatility. It'll be dull. But now you still have a handful of years before that happens.
So we have seen crypto cycles and Bitcoin 4-year cycle. In that, every time Bitcoin creates a new all-time high and it drops to 70 to 80%.
Yeah.
Do you still feel so this is going to happen in this cycle? And is the bear market already begun where we are heading towards?
Yeah. So no, I think the 4-year cycle is dead.
Dead.
I think we've been in a bear market for a year. I think the price should be much higher than it is, but we've been suppressed. And I think 2026 will be an up year. So let me talk about the first one.
Yeah.
Why do I think the 4-year cycle is dead? People have different reasons for believing the 4-year cycle existed. Some people say it was the halving. Some people say it was interest rates. Some people said it was things blowing up. Mt. Gox blew up. FTX blew up. If you look at those 3 things, they're less important today than they were in the past. The halving is half as important every time it happens, right? So by definition, it's just not that big a deal. It took 160,000 Bitcoin out of the system per year. It's not as big as when it took 320 or 640,000 Bitcoin. It's just a smaller number. So that's less important. Interest rates went way up in 2022, the last bear market, way up in 2018, the bear market before that. They're going down right now, right? So the interest rate force is different than it was the past 4-year cycles. And I think the blow up risk is much reduced because we're now in this regulated environment. So I think the reasons we had the 4-year cycle in the past no longer exist. And on the other side, you have this 10-year cycle institutional investment. You have institutions coming along this multiple year journey and starting to allocate. And I think that's just a much bigger deal than what caused this 4-year cycle in the past. So I look forward to 2026. I don't see why we would expect that 4-year cycle to repeat. And I do think we've already sort of had a bear market. We've had so much good news, but the price is about flat. I think that's because people were nervous about this 4-year cycle. They were trying to sell ahead of the 4-year cycle. I think they're just wrong. I think we're going up next year. I think the 4-year cycle is over.
So, like, don't you think so? It's a kind of psychological effect. Like one of my friends started selling crypto just because he thought now we are into going to bear market.
Yes, I think that's a big deal. I actually think a lot of people were trying to do that in 2025 because the bear market's hurt. If you were around in 2022, you remember it hurt.
Hurts bad.
2018, it hurt. Yeah, you're not wrong to want to get out, get away. Like, let's not live through that again. So I think a lot of people were doing that this year. That's one of the reasons I think the price didn't go up as much as it otherwise would have. I think that effect will end on December 31st, right? Like, you can't get ahead of the 4-year cycle in the year it's supposed to go down. It's too late. So I think that selling will peter off. I think that's one of the reasons we'll start to drift higher. I think we'll be back up at new all-time highs in Q1 as that effect. I do think it was a big thing, psychological. Anyone who lived through 2022 was like, I'm not doing that again. And so I do think they were selling ahead of it. And I think that kept the price down this year.
So you are bullish for Q1 2026?
Yeah, I'm very bullish. I think once we turn the corner on the year, the two biggest factors that have been keeping the price down, which is people selling ahead of the 4-year cycle, and then people worrying about if there were any issues after the October 10th volatility spike.
Yep.
I think those will start to go away at the end of the year. And then you have these positive factors of regulatory improvement and institutional investing. I think we'll drift toward a new all-time high in Q1.
Any price target for 2026?
We're still working on that at Bitwise. We haven't released it, so higher. I think it'll be new all-time highs.
New all-time high. What about like Ethereum, XRP?
Yeah, so I'm very excited about Ethereum, Solana. I'm very excited about XRP. I think we'll have to see. It depends on how much real-world adoption they get. I think Chainlink will be one of the top-performing assets. I think Uniswap is looking extremely good. You know, they're talking about the fee switch. I think there's a lot of attention there. I think those are among sort of the easiest calls for 2026. That group of assets, I think, is very well positioned.
Okay, sounds good.
Yeah.
Any numbers you have for these assets you're targeting?
Yeah, we haven't finalized the numbers. Yeah, look. I think the most important thing for 2026 is that the price goes up. The most important thing is that we drive a dagger through the heart of the 4-year cycle. If that happens, I think we're off to the races long term. So, you know, a boring prediction is price go up. Which doesn't sound like much, but it's actually like it would be an existential change. It would signal we're in this new institutional era of crypto. And, you know, I think it'll go to a new all-time high, so north of 125. I wouldn't be surprised if it got to 200, but we don't have a formal price target yet.
Okay, what do you think on like Tom Lee price target? He's targeting 300K for Bitcoin and 62 for Ethereum.
I hope he's right.
That would be crazy.
It would be crazy. It's a little bit crazy.
Yeah.
But people would have said gold going to $4,000 was crazy. The thing about this, actually gold is a really good comparison. So, you know, I'm big, as you mentioned, on supply versus demand.
Yep.
The thing about supply and demand is the demand has to exceed the supply for a long period of time. So in gold's case, the spike is driven because central banks started buying in 2022. And they bought 1,000 tons in 2022 and 1,000 tons in 2023 and 1,000 tons in 2024. And then in 2025, the price took off to the moon. I think you're going to see, the reason Tom Lee is not crazy is we have that same dynamic. There's more demand than supply in 2024. There's more demand than supply in 2025. There's been people who are willing to sell to fill that gap, but eventually those sellers get exhausted. And then it's sort of like the sky's the limit. So I don't know that that's my base case, but I don't think he's wrong in that it could happen. The sellers could be exhausted and then the demand is still there. And like, that is just a force running into a wall. I mean, I do think you could get a real spike. So again, not my base case that he's right. I think he's a little optimistic, but I wouldn't write it off entirely. I think it's within the realm of possibility.
I'm curious to know when Bitwise publishes this researches and you're a core research guy.
Yeah.
How many people work on just one research?
Yeah, so the core research team is 11 people.
11 people.
They don't all work on every piece, but you know, a handful of people will work on every piece, supported by our data and engineering and design and publishing people. So there's a lot of discussion. Everything goes through multiple levels of review. A lot of people work on it, yeah.
No, that's a lot of hard work.
Yeah.
So, like you mentioned, you are very bullish for 2026. but still people are concerned because of the AI bubble, of the US stock market bubble and currency devaluation.
Yeah.
And many people are scared, and honestly including me. What will be your overall thought? Because everything is interlinked with Bitcoin, crypto. Do you feel so like what normal people should do to protect their wealth?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I think they're right to be a little bit concerned. I think there is a risk for a broad pullback. I don't know that will happen, but it's definitely a risk. To protect your wealth, look, you need to, the most important thing during these big pullbacks is that you're not forced to sell. If you're forced to sell, you get out of the market, you may not get back in. What are the two reasons you're forced to sell? One, you took on leverage. Leverage kills. And or two, you don't have enough other assets to continue to pay your bills and stuff. So you need to size your allocation to crypto correctly so that we can withstand this volatility. Again, the only people who really suffered in the 2018 bear market or the 2022 bear market are people who were forced to sell. If you just lived through 2018, who cares that Bitcoin went to $3,000? It's $90,000 today, right? Like, who cares? If you lived through FTX, who cares that Bitcoin went to $5,000? It's $90,000 today. The thing that kills you is being forced out of the market. The reasons for that are either leverage or you have too much crypto and not enough like cash. And so protect yourself from those two things. I think that's really the key.
The only two things we need to remember: leverage, and second, to have some cash.
That's right. Leverage and illiquidity. Those are the deadly sins of investing. Yeah. Exactly.
Okay. And recently, the MicroStrategy stock fall from 50 to 70% very short period of time. And some people quoted it can be the Luna 2.0.
Yeah.
What's your overall thought on this, treasury companies and strategy?
Yeah, so treasury companies broadly, I think there are good treasury companies and bad treasury companies, just like there are good car manufacturers and bad car manufacturers and good software companies and bad software companies. I think the bad companies will go away, and I think MicroStrategy and others will be here. MicroStrategy is not Luna. The thing about MicroStrategy, it actually frustrates me. People are worried that it's going to have to sell all of its Bitcoin. But if you look at its actual debt, instead of you just sort of throw out fear, like look at what it actually owes. It has to pay $800 million a year in interest, but it has $1.4 billion in cash. So it's fine for like 20 months.
Agree.
It owes $8 billion in debt,
Yeah.
but it has $60 billion in Bitcoin. It's like not very much debt. And the first part of a debt that comes due is 2027, and it's $1 billion. $1 billion, like in Bitcoin, is not that much. That's like 3 days of ETF flows. So the people who say MicroStrategy is going to sell its Bitcoin or be the next Luna are just not looking at the actual structure of the debt. I do think there'll be some of these small debts that blow up because they did something stupid. But MicroStrategy is hugely capitalized and the interest payments are really small. If I have like $5,000 of credit card debt, I can probably pay that. It doesn't mean I'm going to be bankrupt. And I just think people are not looking at MicroStrategy appropriately. It's not the Luna of this generation. If you wanted to look for places to search for risk, we could talk about that. I think there are some places you could look for risk. MicroStrategy selling its Bitcoin is not.
What can be then the places?
So if the U.S. fails to pass the Clarity Act, that would be a setback for the industry. If there is a deep recession driven by a blow up of the AI bubble, that would be a challenge. If you want to look crypto specific, I would look at looping trades around interest as an area that people treat as not very risky, which has significant risk if it's done poorly. So you could see like blow ups in that space. But I don't think that's contagion level risk.
What's this loop-in trades?
That's where you you buy a high yielding asset and then you borrow against it and you buy another high yielding asset and borrow against it and buy another high yielding asset. And the problem with that's like the oldest story of time in traditional finance, is that works until there's a shock event and then it doesn't work. But that's not like a Luna style blow up. That just means people will lose money. I do think that could very well happen. That trade's grown tremendously. I think there's some risk there. The big blowups would be a regulatory setback or a broad recession. But I would worry about that. Don't worry about MicroStrategy selling its Bitcoin. It's not.
Okay.
Yeah.
How much you are worried about these points?
I think the regulatory thing is, I think it's like 60-40 that it will pass. So my majority case is it will pass, and I'm worried it won't. I don't think we'll get, I actually don't worry about the recession angle. The reason why is, I don't think it's my base case that we'll enter it. If we do enter it, governments will respond with huge liquidity, and that will actually be good for Bitcoin. So we're sort of like fine if the economy is good, and we're fine if the economy is bad. So I don't worry about that. I think the regulatory thing is a reasonable risk, and I would monitor that.
So you have given 25 years to Wall Street and decade to crypto.
Yeah.
If someone just started building their portfolio, what should be your suggestion or advice for them?
Yeah, so if you're young, your most important asset is actually you. So yeah, focus on your portfolio for sure, but also focus on learning and focus on networking and focus on building your personal capital. Because regardless of what you do with whatever little amount of money you have now, it's vastly more important what you do with your primary asset, which is you and your career. So learn. You can learn by doing. You should be investing. If you lose money, consider that like a tuition to a school and not as a loss. The beautiful thing if you're young is you have this long time horizon. So you are your most important asset. And then the other thing you can do is you can take very long bets. Like what's Bitcoin going to do in the next 6 months? I think it's going to go up, but I don't have great what's it going to do in the next 10 years? I think it's going to 10 to 20x, and I have huge confidence. What's it going to do in the next 30 years? I think it's going to be existentially important. If you're 25 years old, and 30 years from now, you'll be 55. Like you could ride that wave for 30 years. So yeah, my two pieces of advice would be, first, focus on yourself and learning. That's your most high leverage investment. And then on these other things, invest in these things that will play out over decades, because there's a huge amount of growth to go from that.
Let's say you are 25 like me, okay?
Yeah.
And let's switch our position, you are 25 like me, okay? What exactly would you do to become successful in crypto?
Yeah, I think you're already doing it. So the thing that we talk about is proof of work. I'll give you a look on the inside of a crypto asset manager. So I think a lot of people who are like 25, not as successful as you, you're a world famous content creator. But a lot of people are like, how do I get into crypto? How do I get a job at Bitwise or at a company like Bitwise? Here's what happens when I post a job. I get 800 resumes. How do I sort through 800 resumes? I look for people who have written or talked about or proven that they care about crypto. You don't need a job to do that. You can write on X. You can create content on Instagram. You can write on a Substack. You can do something like that. One way to stand out, if it's a non-technical role, is by showing you've really engaged with this and really cared about it over a period of time. I think it's hugely valuable. I mean, that's the most of how I do my own hiring.
Okay, so someone want to get hired in company like Bitwise, so they should have a clear proof of work public.
Proof of work, yeah. Proof of work that you care about crypto and that you're in it and you've been studying it and you're not just trying to glom on. That's really what a company like us is looking for.
If someone very ambitious and hungry is watching this video right now, and it's maybe in early 20s, and they have very small capital, you have told them to start and invest in themselves, and then look into other investment for decades. What other advices that you will give to them?
What other advice? I mean, I think that's it.
That's it.
And then when you get a job, plow into it. Plow it, really work at it. Really take everything that job can give you and try to be excellent at it. And the early returns that compound from that for a long time. I mean, the thing about being early in your career is you have so long to compound returns. So if you dial in and dig in those early phases, I feel like those can expand over time. I remember, my first job in finance, Just worked tremendously hard, but got the opportunity to do a few things, like do media early, give speeches early, and the ability to do that early and then compound that over time, it's just been very valuable for me. So I guess that's the only other piece is once you get that position, really dive into it and make the most you can.
In 25 years of your career, what's the one thing that you are the most proud of?
The most proud of? I'm gonna give you two. I can't give you more. All right. So from an impact perspective, look, I've worked on two things. I've worked on ETFs and I've worked on crypto. The thing that connects them both is that they're designed to make the world sort of cheaper and more efficient and faster and fairer for people. So I look at like my ETF journey. ETFs became the dominant way people invest. They took the average fee to invest from 1% down to about 10 basis points. They cut like 90%. So there's this huge dividend that every investor in the world gets every year. And I played a little small part in delivering that. I feel very happy about that. Same thing in crypto. I think it'll make it cheaper to transact. I think it'll make it cheaper to save. I think people get higher interest rates. If I can contribute a little bit to people getting 5% interest on their savings instead of 0, if I can be like a little piece of that journey, that's pretty exciting to me. The other thing that I'm really proud of is, look, I built 2 companies. I've sat on the boards of a couple other companies. Have employed some really good people and seen them grown over time. Some of those people now have incredible jobs, and that's just like, that's really special. That's really where the fun is, or at least part of the fun is helping to work with a group of people and see them grow over time. It's been really, really unique.
How do you find the A players team?
They're all the cliches, which are true. A players only want to work for A players. You have to be willing to look for them, and if a person isn't working out, help them find their next role and really focus on the people who are working out. If you're in a fast-growing industry and you have very high standards, you end up working with A players if you insist on it.
Okay.
I also think, for what it's worth, I think almost everyone can be an A player if they're in a job that they really care about, doing something that they really love. And if they're not, then they're in the wrong position.
In 25 years of your career, what's the one best piece of advice you have ever heard?
One best piece of advice I've ever heard in 25 years of my career. This is a good question. I think it's mostly that integrity and reputation is won over decades and lost over minutes. So you always have to keep in mind that it always pays, even if doing something that's straight and honest and true is not the easiest thing to do, it always pays over time to do it, even if the other direction seems faster. I just try to keep that in mind, right? Like, yeah, integrity is won over decades, lost in minutes, I think is a good thing to remember.
That's a great line. If someone, like, for example, especially in finance and crypto, you get many chances to make quick money.
Yeah.
And you have, like, it's a kind of angel sitting on right shoulder and
That's
a
right.
lion on left.
Yeah.
How do you make that decision in that?
Oh, you always sit with the angels. You always sit with the angels. The fast money isn't good money. The good money compounds slowly over time. And if you do that for, we've talked a lot about, you have 20, 30, whatever, 40 years, just compounding those small wins over time will pay off. Give not into the temptation of the short money. It's never worth it.
That's kind of spicy question, okay?
Yeah, I like it.
What's the one truth about crypto that if you say that it can get you cancelled, but that's the truth that people need to hear?
What's the one truth about crypto that if I say it will get me canceled, but people need to hear? There are a lot of them. There are a lot of them.
Keep it coming.
Let's see.
Yes, sir.
Most crypto assets will go to 0. There are a lot of billion-dollar coins that are worth 0. There are a lot of scammers in crypto. I think Bitcoin. I'll tackle Bitcoin.
Okay.
A sketchy one to go with. Look, I think Bitcoin needs to keep moving forward, or it could fade into much less relevance.
Okay.
I do think that's true. There's this old myth, turned out to be a myth. There's an old myth that sharks don't sleep, that they need to constantly be swimming or that they die. Turns out I think that that's not actually true, but it's a nice metaphor. I think Bitcoin needs to continue to win institutional penetration on a sustained basis, or its long-term trajectory will be much lower than I think it will be. So there's a world where Bitcoin hits some rough period for like multiple years. And I think if that happens, it will take a long time to recover from. I think we've been able to live through bear markets that are like 9-12 months long. I think if we had like a 4-year bear market, it might take decades to recover from that. I do think that that's probably true.
Okay, what can be the reason behind Bitcoin having that rough time?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think it's going to happen. I don't think it's going to happen. I don't know. A mass coordinated global regulatory crackdown on Bitcoin across multiple geographies was the one that I used to worry about. Not just one country banning Bitcoin, but like 20 countries banning Bitcoin together. I no longer think that's a risk, but that's the kind of risk that we could get. I struggle with other reasons that would happen. I don't see those reasons. Like people worry about quantum. I don't really worry about that as much.
Why do you not worry about quantum?
Because we know it's a risk. It's unlikely that Bitcoin sees a train coming down the track and just stands in the track. I just don't think that that's going to happen. I think it will recognize that it needs to move left or right. If we weren't talking about quantum, I would worry about quantum. But because we're talking about quantum, I'm not that worried. I just think we'll figure it out.
But don't you think so? Bitcoin ecosystem is moving very slow when it comes to quantum technology.
No, I don't think so. I think the quantum risk is years out, and I think you're seeing not decades out, but years out. And I think you're seeing a lot of discussion about it right now. Again, I really think it's true that if we weren't talking about it, we should be worried about it. We are talking about it, so I'm not that worried about it. Yeah, I don't like you don't get hit by the car you see coming. You get hit by the car that you don't expect. That's what I think Bitcoin, like what could throw Bitcoin off its track is something we don't expect. Maybe it's this global regulatory ban. For what it's worth, I think there's more risk to stablecoins of a hostile regulatory reaction in countries that see stablecoin and dollarization as a fundamental threat. I think that's a risk that could bubble up and would be interesting to see. I don't see this Bitcoin regulatory risk, but if it happened and we had like a crypto winter for 4 years, I think it would take a while to come back.
Okay.
Yeah.
Adi. Let's imagine this is the last interview we are having right now, and you want to pass on a message to this world. What will that message be?
About the world?
No, in general, that you want to pass on to the world. If that's your last message for the world, what will be that?
I think the world is pretty great. I think the world is pretty great. And I think people get caught up in all the worries, and they're real worries, and there are lots of real problems. There's also so much that's fundamentally wonderful. Meeting people, having family, loving people, progress, opportunity, growth. I think, I really like thinking about all the great things and not ignoring the problems, but also recognizing there's so much that's really wonderful about the world. At least for me, that's my experience of life is yes, there are these issues, and yes, we should be concerned about it, but we should reflect on all the things that are absolutely amazing as well.
You like to see the positive side of the world.
I do. There's a lot of positive in the world.
So let's do a quick rapid fire.
Okay.
Bitcoin versus Ethereum.
What time period?
In general.
Bitcoin has the best risk-adjusted returns. Ethereum has more upside potential, but more risk.
Okay.
Yeah.
One word answer.
Okay.
Okay. It will be very quick.
Bitcoin.
Bitcoin. Bitcoin versus Solana.
Bitcoin.
Bitcoin versus XRP.
Bitcoin.
Okay, let's say Bitcoin. If you want to choose one out of Ethereum, Solana, and XRP, what will be that?
Solana.
Solana. Trump versus Biden.
I should say on Solana, I love Ethereum too.
Okay.
I want to own them both. Solana is just so much smaller than Ethereum. Trump versus Biden, neither.
Neither.
Neither?
Okay, yeah. If Bitcoin goes to zero, what will you do?
I'd buy it all at a penny. What do you
Oh
mean?
my God. That's the conviction we need. ETF or buying the actual coin?
ETF.
ETF. 10 years of hold for Bitcoin or 10 years of hold for Ethereum?
10 years of hold for Bitcoin. Yeah. I want to say something on ETH
Please.
because I'm the thing about I'm very bullish on Ethereum. It has more competitors than Bitcoin. And that's why I said Bitcoin, because if I have to go in a box for 10 years and then come out, and I have every confidence Bitcoin will be money. ETH, I think, will be the dominant stablecoin platform, but it has more risk. It has more risk.
Okay,
Yeah.
got it. Let's say if you lost everything today and you have to restart with just $1,000 again, what will be your plan?
Ooh, I'd buy, well, in investing?
In general, life, let's say life. Or
I mean,
investing.
I'd use it to buy food. I don't know. I've invested in me. I mean, again, I think your biggest asset is yourself.
Okay.
And so invest in that. So whatever it would take to get me off the ground, working, etc.
What about investment if you have only $1,000 to allocate?
Yeah, I would. I mean, so first I'd have cash so that I could eat. And then after cash, I'd buy a basket of crypto assets and wait for 10 years.
Like Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana.
I'd buy Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, XRP, Chainlink. I'd buy the whole lot.
Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Mac.
Thank you.
Trust me, now I am much more bullish on Bitcoin and Ethereum. Now I have much more conviction in this industry after this.
Awesome. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much. You have a great smile.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Perfect.